Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity.
We made it. We're here. We're at BIM Thoughts. We have the Carl Storms.
We do.
And we have a special guest, the Armadillo himself, Dan Stine.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Dan. What have you been up to these days?
Oh, just working hard, having fun out in the backyard, growing things.
Yeah, I saw your tweets about growing things faster in Texas than in Minnesota.
Yeah, we had vegetables in our backyard in January. It was pretty amazing. Although I got blamed for bringing the February storm that crashed the Texas electrical grid. People say I must have been ready for it. And well, that's a normal day, right, up north for like 5 months out of the year. I was still super nervous because water pipes are 6 inches below ground or in a ventilated attic space. And there was nowhere to go anyway, so whether you knew how to drive in the snow or not, everything was closed.
Right. And you didn't want to go out even if you could because no one else knows how to drive in the snow.
Right. Now, if I would have brought my studded winter tires with me, I would definitely would have made the news.
Probably.
For my bike.
Yeah, you would have made the news. That would, we would all say, "Hey, there goes Dan on his bike." And we all would have thought nothing of it and just changed the channel and moved along.
Funny thing is, I never wiped out with those tires on snow and ice, and I moved down here and bought a new bike and wiped out pretty bad on what otherwise was a dry road, but somebody had their irrigation system going on a corner and I didn't see a wet spot.
Oh,
slid halfway across the street and scuffed up my elbow pretty good.
Ouch.
But other than that...
You're not supposed to do that when you're getting older.
I know.
So what did you swap out for? You had the big, what do they call them? The fat tires, the 29ers before when you were in Minnesota.
I didn't really have a fat tire. It was a mountain, like a proper mountain bike.
Just regular, yeah.
And the paths that I rode every day, the city plowed. Even if it snowed all day, I know it would have been plowed by the time it was time to ride home. So here I got a hybrid. It's a Trek FX3. Ooh. So it's still mountain bike looking, but it has skinny, more like road tires. And I actually bike every single day. My commute to work is a 5-mile round trip ride that involves Starbucks in the middle. So every morning, even because we're still working from home, and in fact, will be until like February of 2022 because we've decided after waiting a long time to do this, to pull the trigger. We're remodeling our office in San Antonio. What better time to do it than when everybody's emptied out of the office and things are working well? We can have the office totally remodeled with us not being there.
That's great. So you've got a new book. You have a new book series out. You're like jumping ship and writing different kinds of books now.
Well, it's still leveraging skills that I've learned in the industry, and so one came out last year, and another one had been done for a while, and we decided to change it up a little bit, and so the one that came out last year was the Microsoft Excel certification study book, and then the Word one I had finished a good 8 to 10 months ago, but then we decided to add some more content to the Word one and make it an introduction to Word and Excel. I would say the primary audience for these series is high school students.
Oh, okay.
Certification is just becoming a bigger thing, and there's a sort of a market there where you can buy a book, you can buy videos, you can buy a practice exam program, but you can't buy it all together as a bundle, and that's what this is. We had a software developer make a practice exam software for Excel and Word, and just like when you go to Certiport and the practice exam starts, it opens up Word or Excel, and then a bar across the bottom tells you what the question is and what to do in this file that it opened up that already has some stuff in it. So, multiply these columns or change this cell to percentage from generic formatting or general formatting. And so it's a book, and then you can download for the Word book, you can download 95 videos. And then you can also download the practice exam software, and it's just got, lots of really good graphics, like step by step on how to do stuff, and not so heavy on words. It's not just a book full of words about how to use Word. It's lists and graphics, and here's how you create columns and format text and things like that. And it's at entry level too. There's like Word and Excel expert level certification. So that's why these are like the first ones that people do. Those are typically done more than the expert one, and especially at the high school level.
Right.
So, and then the series, there's a third one I'm actually working on right now for PowerPoint. And if you, through Microsoft certification, which they Certiport are the main and only people, I believe, that administer the Microsoft certifications that are endorsed by Microsoft, you can get this like master office certification if you get like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and one other, Access. I think Access.
Access. Wow.
It's Access or Outlook, one of those. So anyways, we'll see how it works out, but it's fun to write. I've written all my books to date in Word and use Excel all the time for work. So, it wasn't too difficult to write an introductory book on those topics.
And did you do all 95 videos, or did someone else do those?
Yeah, I did them. Yep. And if you go to Certiport's website, they have the required outcomes for all the exams, including the Revit certification, which I've had a book for that now for a few years. The table of contents for the Word and Excel book pretty much match the outline of the required outcomes. So it's pretty focused on helping a person, particularly the Excel one. Like I mentioned, the Word one has some extra information in it to just learn Word from scratch. But the table of contents pretty closely matches the outcomes, so that there's not a lot of extra fluff if somebody's goal is to pass the certification exam and have that badge on LinkedIn or on their resume.
So you're the Coles Notes, or I guess that's Canada, the Cliff Notes of certification.
Yeah, sort of.
Well, and I guess that's kind of a good thing. I mean, we see the certifications through, and Certiport does it for the Autodesk products as well.
Right.
And it's one of those things where people like to go through the process. It's nice to have that badge on LinkedIn or wherever it is that say that you're certifying the product. But I think it culminates in the time and effort to learn that. And I think it's also a wake up call sometimes for those people that maybe don't know as much about it as they think they do. I mean, Word and Excel, I know as we talked earlier about this, Dan, we're kind of like, it's not really architecture related, but it's something where a lot of us are using Office or equivalent in our day-to-day jobs, and it's something that we've been using for a long time. But maybe the last time we took a real course or really learned about it was back, God, what are you at now? 2019, 2021 coming out? Maybe we learned it back when it was like, just Word. There wasn't anything associated. So, well, it doesn't change dramatically. Stuff has changed. Workflows has changed. So even as just a simple refresher, I think it would be a helpful product to throw on your summer read list, if you will.
Yeah. Thinking back to the old RTC days, Rich, our good friend of the show, Richard Taylor, did a class on Excel in Scottsdale one year.
I took that class.
Lab. Yep. And at first, I was the lab, I don't know what you call it, the lab
assistant.
Not really. I set up the labs and made them all work, and so I just stayed in the labs all day to make sure they stayed working.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was fun, and so I sat down through all the labs. But good golly, I learned a lot in that class. I didn't think I was going to learn as much about Excel as I did. I thought, oh man, why are they even doing this class? Is this
Never mind. That's sort of like when I went to your Bluebeam class.
right?
I didn't know that. That's a good idea.
Who the heck wants to learn Bluebeam? So yeah, who the heck wants to learn Excel? But some of those things that that he taught us, I use every day and don't even think about that I learned it there. It's like it's second nature now, which is great. So thank you, Richard, for that.
It certainly was a great class. I do remember taking that. I also learned a lot from your Bluebeam class as well. And I think that shows that even at these high-level conferences where we're getting really deep into certain things that we spend all our time in, there's these other softwares and these other practices that we spend some time in, but maybe don't get time to refresh or to learn. And to take a class like Excel or Word or Bluebeam and to sit there and take it in and not have to focus on it because you're not learning new, but you pick up those 2 or 3 little nuggets. That's worth the price of admission. Absolutely.
By the way, my favorite Bluebeam tip was the print a PDF before and after an upgrade.
Oh, that is gold.
Wasn't that a gold? That was a great tip, wasn't it?
Yep. Then compare afterwards to see what disappeared.
Right. Let Bluebeam compare it afterwards for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying a. All right. Do you use Visual Studio Code for text editing?
Yes.
Do you know about Control-Shift-L?
Yes, I just learned that.
That is like the best thing ever created. What it does is you highlight a word or a phrase or code or anything, and it finds all of the matches of that highlighted in your document. And then Control-Shift-L puts a cursor at every one of those instances. So you can edit all of those at the same time. And I use that more than anything. I used to use search and replace to do that.
Right.
But I find this much easier and faster because I can edit while I change. So if I make a mistake, I don't have to search and replace again just to find out because I forgot a space or something at the end of the code. So Control-Shift-L or Command-Shift-L if you're on a Mac.
There you go.
Yes.
Another word-related thing that's kind of interesting. We just finished a Word document that was being worked on by 6 people. Two of us from Lake Flato and 2 people from Bureau Happold, and then 2 other individuals. We were working for the last 6 months in the same Word document in Teams, which turned out really great. We were creating the AIA Climate Action Guide for Practice, which the AIA National hired us to create, which was a lot of fun, sort of a parallel to the framework for design excellence and more focused on the architectural practice rather than architectural projects, so your own business.
And you guys are using a live Word document, kind of like Google Docs, but with the Teams integration.
Yep. We also used Miro a lot. I don't know if
Miro. Yeah, I've used Miro.
Miro, M-I-R-O.
M-I-R-O.
Yeah, Miro, not Mural. And in fact, so we've used it on that project, and we've used it on our own projects, and even have done interviews with it. The company just made a video that's about 3.5 minutes long. You'll have to put it in the show notes, featuring Lake Flato and our firm culture, and then like the last 40 seconds were about Miro, so that was kind of cool. Had 3 of our staff interviewed for the video. They hired a production crew out of Austin, and our 3 people went over to Austin. It's like an hour and a half away, and did the interviews. They had to all go separate. They had some pretty strict COVID protocols, and did some filming in our Austin office.
Finally get to fly to Irvine next week.
Oh,
first plane trip since the pandemic, right?
First plane trip since the pandemic.
Wow.
So I'm excited to get back into the swing of things. Just fly down for the day,
Nice.
like I
Yeah,
used
we
to
have
do in the
a
good old
family
days.
vacation coming up in July where we'll be flying for the first time.
Well, that'll be exciting. Where are you going?
Going to Key West.
Wow.
I've always wanted to drive the Keys. So
Yeah.
my wife was actually born in Homestead, Florida, which is where the Keys start on the mainland, just south of Miami. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. So what is the big thing with Miro? Miro.
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 Miro. It's an online collaboration board. Sort of like an infinite, AutoCAD model space or Revit drafting view.
Oh, okay.
And multiple people can be in there at the same time, and you can start laying out images like precedent images and your landscape renderings, and you can drop in like Ulio or any URL, but like a Ulio project, link. If you drop it in there, it becomes a little thumbnail of what the URL is, and then if you click on it, it'll launch it from within Miro, and it allows just lots of it gives everybody an opportunity to comment on things and not feel like they have to speak out loud. If you could do this in a context of a Teams meeting or just independently, but people can add post-it notes, and although they look like post-it notes, I don't think they're that particular.
Yeah, they're not 3M brand.
3M.
They're probably
by the way,
like a Staples.
You know what 3M stands for?
3M stands for the 3 M's.
Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing.
Really? A mining company makes post-it notes.
I don't think they're into mining anymore. I could be wrong, but that's what it stands for. But really? Minnesota-based company, right, where I'm from.
Yeah.
But it's a great tool to have multiple people in there, and when you're doing some mind mapping or trying to gather crowdsourced ideas, it just gives people an opportunity to add their comments or move little voting dots around. There's lots of little templates you can drop in to let people.
So it's got a little bit more templates and stuff than Whiteboard does.
Yeah, for sure. There's lots of really cool features in terms of graphics, and when you drop in either any sort of item, you click on it, and there's little dots on the side where you can drag an arrow off of it and point it at something else.
Yeah, I use it's not collaborative, but I use Snagit all the time.
Oh yeah, I use that 100 times a day.
And I think the arrow tool is probably the tool I use the most.
Yeah, the Miro arrows are probably more like Dynamo, or you're dragging a arrow off the side of something, and it's sort of a sticky arrow, and sticks to something else and does a nice little curve. But yeah, Snagit's the best tool since sliced bread.
Right. That and Camtasia is pretty good too.
Yeah, I use that as well.
Is that the next book? How to make videos, since you've made hundreds and hundreds of them now, Dan?
I don't know.
I guess that one wouldn't be a book. That would have to be a video, right?
Yeah, I don't know. My publisher is thankfully pretty good at figuring out what kind of books to write, and I've come up with books before that clearly would have been a waste of time, and a couple of them have gotten through that haven't done so well. Like, they were a lot of fun to write, but the hand sketching books, I've sold over the years, 3 or 5 a year.
Oh no!
So the publisher, whenever I come up with a book, and since they're focused on the academic market, it's like, show me a class or classes preferably that where this is covered. Let's not just make something up that nobody's gonna buy at the end of the day.
Right, because end of the day, they need to make money too.
Right.
Well, that's it, and that's the nice thing to have the partnership like you have with the publisher, Dan, is that you get that feedback, because we all have our expertise and things we think great, but we've all seen that not everything is the perfect idea. To have that someone to throw those ideas off and to say, hey, that's a great idea, but maybe not for today's climate, today's market, today's kids. You say it, we know it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so working at Lake Flato's been amazing. So I created a new position when I came on board.
Well, that's always the best way to start.
Right.
Right.
And during the pandemic, I came down for
Right.
a tour in January 2020,
Oh.
and everything was all rosy, and then
Mm-hmm.
something happened in March. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Something happened in March.
Yeah, and so we sort of put the brakes on, but then another 2 months later, they got a call back, and
Mm-hmm.
projects were still moving, and things
Yeah.
were still busy. So I had the opportunity to start working remotely from Minnesota. Sold a house, bought a house down here that I'd never physically seen, and even signed
Mm-hmm.
for it up north at a title company 2 days before the real closing. That was the craziest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Why not live on the edge?
Yep.
What could go wrong?
Right. And then we
Right.
hopped on I-35 and drove it from Duluth to San Antonio, because there's one road that connects the two cities.
Really?
Only took 28 hours.
Oh, did you do it all in a row?
Well, we had our four pets and 2 kids, and
oh yeah, they'd make you stop.
Hard to bring them into the hotel. Not the kids. and all our house plants, actually, were all piled in 2 cars.
Oh my goodness. It was like you were moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember packing up the office that was in Miami Beach and moving it to Las Vegas in a U-Haul truck one year. That was an exciting trip.
Yeah, luckily we didn't have to drive the truck. We had filled up a back of a semi-truck type trailer, and they came and pulled it away.
Yeah, that wouldn't be fun.
No.
I've only driven a big U-Haul once, and that was 2,800 miles. And yeah, that was a long trip. But it was fun. I had a good time doing that. I highly recommend somebody do that at least once in their lifetime.
Check it off the bucket list.
So you can check that off the list. That's right. And get caught in a hurricane and trying to drive through. Not quite a hurricane. It was probably depleted quite a bit from then. But yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the most rain I've ever experienced in my life. Driving a big old U-Haul with the semis passing me going 100 miles an hour, it seems like.
If you're going to do it big, Bill.
Do it. You got to do it right.
Yeah.
That's right. You got to do the Ben Thoughts way.
My wife just read somewhere and told me recently that Texas has the highest speed, which isn't that much higher than the other highest speeds, but there's a road that between San Antonio and Austin, 85 miles an hour.
Good golly.
But I'm pretty sure people go that all around San Antonio anyways.
People do that all driving from Vegas to LA all the time. You get run over if you're not going 85, it seems like sometimes.
So are the two of you very familiar with Lake Flato?
I am not familiar with. I've heard of them. I've spoken to some people at a synthesis concert for Knowledge Architecture.
Yeah, right.
And
Philip Chan used to work here as a BIM manager.
Yeah, that's my tie-in to Lake Flato was when Philip Chan was there.
And then our current BIM manager is Stephen Campbell. Do either one of you know him?
The name sounds familiar.
So he worked at Revit before the Autodesk acquisition.
Really?
And then at Autodesk for 17 years or something like that after that.
Wow.
And then when he left Autodesk 3 years ago, he came to Lake Flato. So he's awesome to work with. I remember being on a call with him once when I was in the Shanghai office for the Revit Inside the Factory, and he was back in Boston, and we were talking about some feature that I was trying to break as a good beta tester.
And that's the role of a good beta tester. It's not to play nice. It's to smash it and thrash it and trash it and get it fixed. In this year we've had a few people from Autodesk on here to remind us that when you get that pop-up for the something has crashed, send her an incident report. Hit the button and send it, because that's how it makes it better for everyone.
Yeah, I've said that for years. Even at my previous job, I was like, just enter my email address. I'll be happy to follow up on it, because that's part of the job. But I've literally had calls from people at Autodesk like a couple of times within an hour. Like, can you send me that file?
Yeah.
Wait, do you mean the area report I just submitted?
They actually work on it, and that's actually a kind of a good idea about having one person to send them to, because that does a couple things. One, Autodesk gets a lot of emails from one person, so they pay attention. But two, it also means that there's one person to bring all that stuff together. Of course,
Right.
make sure that your BIM manager, your design director, whoever that might be, is on board. We don't want you to be sending emails of somebody that doesn't want to help. But I think
Right.
that was a good idea you had there, Dan, to
Yep.
sort of have that funnel so that all comes to one spot.
And the email if there's any sort of reply, it lists the computer name, so you
Yeah.
can see who submitted it. I
Mhm.
think there might be a toggle to enable that, or some people.
Yeah, it's a
can
little
hide
check.
that.
It's a little checkbox.
Yeah, right. But yeah, it's just to share a couple of things to brag on the new company. So, Architect Magazine ranked it the #1 firm in the U.S. and
Wow.
that was at the end of 2019. And I think because of the pandemic, they haven't redone the Architect Top 50 list. So, as far as I'm concerned, we're still #1. But we've also won more of the AIA Coat Top 10 awards, the highest sustainable design award that the AIA has, right? We've won more of those than any other firm in the U.S.
That's
Which is
pretty cool.
cool. Two of them in 2020. One was for the Austin Central Library, and another one was for the Southern Mississippi Marine Research Center.
That is pretty cool. And I think that nicely ties into what you were mentioning earlier when we were speaking about Word particular, but you and your colleagues working together on that new AIA document inside of Word. I think that might be a handy topic to have the next time we have you on board to speak about that, because sustainability is becoming more and more. I mean, it's always been an issue, but people are taking it much more seriously thanks to initiatives like the 2030 initiative that we have going forward. So I think that might be an interesting topic for the next episode when we have the Armadillo on board.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, the AIA, well, there's the Architecture 2030, and then there's the AIA 2030 commitment, right? And
Right.
I know LPA is on
We're
that.
big in that 2030 commitment. That's right.
So are we. We've been signatories for 10 years.
Yeah.
Reporting our
I think
portfolio.
I think LPA signed up in 2010.
Yeah. You have
Is
an
that
office.
right?
I've driven by your San Antonio office a few times.
We do have a San Antonio office. Yeah, we did a lot of 2030 commitment projects last year. I don't know the number, but I think we were the #1 for large architects to get them done. But
yeah, that's pretty impressive. I remember seeing.
it's very impressive, especially when it's not really on some of the projects. It's not really high on the client's mind to do that. It's high on their mind is to get the design done so they can get the building sold and out of there. We seem to be doing a good job.
I think that bodes well for just like back in the day when we were all starting to use Revit and use BIM, and when firms started to realize that we don't have to charge extra and we don't have to have the client demanding it. It benefits us and the greater good to do it that way. I think what you and Flato are speaking about doing these challenges, I think that drives that same thing. That sustainability is starting to become that thing where we can design these buildings that way and not have to be something that's driven by the client, but just for the greater good.
Yeah.
Well, the client still needs to be heavily involved, but
yes, you're not going to design a building off grid without the client being involved, but
right,
you get what I'm saying.
You're not going to put photocells on the roof just because you want to. They're ultimately paying for them.
Well, what's also great is there's a lot of tools now that really democratize the effort. Even just visualization. You think about Enscape, charging extra these days for visualization is fairly rare because it's so easy to do.
Right.
Visualization and VR, and have some really cool things to share on VR in the future. And
that's right.
Some new things that we've been working on, like NVIDIA's Cloud XR, running a cloud workstation in an Amazon AWS data center in Oregon, and firing up Enscape on it and hitting the VR button and having it stream through to my house across my Wi-Fi 6 Wi-Fi mesh to my wireless Oculus Quest 2 and have it be a reasonably good experience.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. And I think that brings us to the point where we've got the sustainability, we've got the cool things with VR, so we've got a couple of reasons to have the Armadillo back on and talk to us.
Right.
I still haven't seen an armadillo yet, so
You haven't.
The irony is
You see one every morning when you shave.
But so, listeners, if you've enjoyed hearing glimpses of what we're going to talk about in the future, be sure to keep tabs on us, because we've got those episodes coming out in fall 2021. And with that, Bill, I'm going to give you the last thought.
Oh, the last thought. The last thought is if you work at like Flato or you're in San Antonio area and you see Dan, make sure you call him out as the Armadillo.
I love that we just give Dan nicknames and he just takes them.
And he likes it. I hope.
Yeah, I could think of a lot worse. So
yeah. Well, he went from polar bear. So
yeah.
Has anybody called you the Armadillo yet at work?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, well, we'll have to fix that. Thank you so much, Dan, for being on again.
Sure. Great to be here.
Excited to talk about VR and sustainability and all the other stuff when we get going again after our little summer break. So we'll make sure to have you on.